there! I am your host, Dancing Johari, and welcome to my channel. Today, I'm working on something fantastical, something fantasy. A while back, someone commented that they love fantasy creatures, and well, I've made mermaids, so let's tackle something different. Why not, right? I'm so excited about this one. I can't wait to show you. To the workstation! Okay, so obviously I'm thinking about centaurs. Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and I was thinking something fun and really cool themed and differently colored, because centaurs, as you can see, can come in just about any color. I mean, granted, most people go with more realistic. This is a centaur I built for myself as an avatar on Second Life. This was a very fun project. It was not very time consuming, but was fun. And the possibilities of the different colors and tails you could choose are pretty, well, I wouldn't say endless, but there's a pretty good variety for different bodies depending on the body you choose. So with all of that in mind, let's head to the workstation. So this is Operetta, and this is the doll I'm going to use. She came in parts, and of course she came with a neck peg stuck in her head. So I took that out, but I had to leave a small gash in there to do it because I could not get it out through the neck peg hole. And well, I love the tattoos on her, but not all of them are going to stay, unfortunately. And this body, oh my goodness, totally a volunteer. Look how quickly those legs wobble. Whew. That's one. The second leg came off fairly easy, and well, as you can see, she came with both hands missing and one forearm missing. So this is what we're starting with. Not bad. Now let's get rid of that hair. It's pretty sticky and yucky feeling, and I have something else in mind. Bride of Frankenstein. Before I can take out the rest of the hair, I need to take it a bit shorter, but that was a funny moment I thought I'd share. Using pliers, I go ahead and wriggle them around inside the head using the gash that I created, as well as the neck fold. And I just keep pulling out chains of plugs until it's all gone. God, I can get a better look at her head. And she does have a little deformity at the top, but that's not going to affect anything. Let's take off all the factory paint, including that on the scalp. I have a different kind of hair in mind. I'm envisioning an ombre. So we're just going to take this off. It's not necessary. And while we're at it, let's try Delightfuls. Can we take off a whole eye at a time? Sadly, no. To get into the tight crevices, I did use a Q-tip. To get the crease in between the lips, you kind of have to squeeze the cheeks a little bit to get way in there. Ah! Much better. Much, much better. Now, let's take off what we aren't going to need on the torso. Meaning, we don't really need where her butt would be at all. Does that sound terrible? So I used my Dremel, and I just worked at it from both sides, front, back, and the sides, of course. Just took my time. With using these tools, really, you have to be careful. Make sure that you take some precautions. Once the bottom part was wobbly enough, and I kept testing it, but once it felt loose enough, it just snapped off. I smoothed out the bottom part a little bit, and I went ahead with my drill. Those of you who have seen my mermaid series, you know where this is going. First, we drill a hole. Then we widen the hole with a drill bit. Another drill bit. It's meant more for nails. Then we're going to take a connector and glue it in. But the first time I glued this one in, I glued it in facing wrong. It should be facing with the cross facing front and back, not side to side. So I ended up taking it out, attaching some pieces, and gluing it back in, facing the right direction. That's much better. Then taking my armature, I went my ball and joint armature from Jeton. I got this on eBay, by the way. It's pliers too. So in KP Creation style videos, you would recognize that I'm building her a new horse-shaped body. Okay, it's not all horse-shaped, and I did use another Centaur I had on hand for size reference to make sure I got the size as close to what it should be for Monster High proportions. So taking Apoxy Sculpt, which is a 2-part resin clay in half a half, or 1-to-1 ratio, I mixed it and used that to affix the top half of her body permanently to her armature and give her a little bit more weight in the back. She's going to have a lot of weight in the front with her head and her hair when I'm done. This will keep her more stable. Then using more Apoxy Sculpt, I made her some hooves. I did one pass, and then later off camera I added a second pass to finish them up. I think I did a pretty good job. Once that's cured, it's time for batting. So taking quilt batting in strips and some hot glue, I wrap it around the armature and affix the ends in place to either more of the fluff or down at the bottom of the of where I want it to go. So in this case, down at the bottom of the leg. I built up the body part first, and then I built up the legs, the front legs, and then the back. The back legs are usually more muscular because they're the hindquarters. Those are where all those jumping muscles for jumping come into play. I just kept building up fluff until I was fairly happy with the structure. I tried not to go to put too much on her, because if the next material is going to add a lot of bulk, meaning I'm going to use fur, faux fur. There she is. I also did need to add a little bit more length to the back half of her armature, but that's okay. I was able to just pull up the fluff and add it off camera. Taking a big strip of faux fur, I went ahead and cut it roughly to the length of her body and trimmed it down, made holes for the legs as I went, and just started sewing it shut. The cool thing about the fur is it hides a lot of the stitches. I just did a whip stitch, meaning I just went back and forth, back and forth. And I trimmed as I went down the body and made holes as I needed for the hind legs. Once the hind legs were exposed, but in the fluff, I continued going up the back end. So fluffy. I'm also going to show you how to do the one leg. So using the same technique, I go ahead and start going down the leg along the inside part of the leg, so you won't see the seam. Not that the seam's very visible anyway. Fluff helps. Then I sewed the top part of that to the main body. Fluff. Just the way it doesn't move around. It doesn't slide down and expose the quilt batting underneath. I also hid the ends in the fluff by feeding the needle through, poking it out another part of the leg or body. Now taking a second kind of faux fur, which is a little bit longer and a little bit stiffer, I decided to give her the fluff like a Clydesdale would have at the bottom of its feet. Or at the bottom of its leg, rather. There we go. It's going to need some trimming because I can't even see the hoof. And, well, I won't bore you with the other 3 legs. She came out so pretty. And even after trimming, I mean, well, I haven't trimmed yet, I don't think. But look how beautiful that is. Oh, my husband saw this and he said, "It looks like a llama." Maybe next time I'll do a llama version. Taking out my airbrush, I go ahead and start with priming the plastic parts of the body and the vinyl part of the head. And while those dry, I go ahead and start adding color to the faux fur. I'm using 2 different kinds of paints. For the plastic parts, I'm using a kind of paint that's meant for miniatures. So they're meant to adhere to plastic really easy. It's a Vallejo brand, the airbrush Vallejo brand. And then the Lumiere fabric paint is, Jacquard fabric paint is what I'm using for the body. So first we add rose gold. Then after that's all dry, I go ahead and start adding color to the head and body. It's a little darker purple than the original purple, but it works. I really like this color combination. Pink and purple, it just goes really well together. And I was resisting putting in blue. I was resisting so hard. It was tough, man. I added some purple to the body as well. It took a little while to build up the colors. Sorry about the hair shot. I didn't realize I got in the way of the camera. Here she is, all nicely painted. Airbrushed arms and hands too. I got a new airbrush stand just for that. Now I'm going to blush the arms, the hands, well, the joints of the arms and the hands, and of course the rest of her upper body. I tried using pastels, but no, I went right back to my eyeshadows. Once that was done, I went ahead and primed the hooves with white. Then I gave them a coat of gold from the Lumiere Jacquard acrylic line. This is meant mostly for fabrics, but it's also an acrylic paint, so it can be used on plastic. Just when you airbrush it, it doesn't come out very well, unless it's on fabric. But if you use a brush, hey, it's great. Taking more of my miniature paints, I began enhancing her tattoos. This was fun because they're music based, but they're also kind of naturey, and well, you got a spider web in there. It just reminded me of a garden, so I added flowers. While that dries, I go ahead and do the same with the head. I also added 2 coats to the body of Duraclear matte varnish to help it last. And as you can see, I'm using really teeny brushes here. I don't want to mess this up. But there is a little imperfection on the head where I was spraying the primer and the colored paint. But that's okay. I've got a plan for that. I added highlights, of course, to the darker greens. And oh my goodness, look at that treble clef hidden in there. I never realized that was there before. It's amazing what you can bring out with paint. So, Mattel, in all honesty, paint would honestly make those tattoos have popped a lot better. You painted on the forearm, why not the engraved part of the body? So, using some rose colored acrylic paint, I added a little flower, and then I added details with white. Now, I did have a little mess up, so I added another flower, and then to cover the green part of the mess up, well, let's add a little stem and some leaves. And of course, a little vine. It helps that I'm also a henna artist. After that, I got to the face up and started blushing the lips, the cheek, with the untattooed cheek, that is. The chin, the nose, above the eyes, the usual. Because her face is so dark, I decided to go with a pale color for her lips. And instead of, well, there's a little bit of blue teal on her cheeks, just because I figured that would enhance the cheekbone a little bit more. I want to keep her as natural looking as I can, but at the same time, it was nice and fun just messing around with this part. I added some peach above her eyes for her blushing, for her eyeshadow. And I keep a kneaded eraser handy just in case of mistakes. Sorry about the blurry shot of this one, of these following clips, because for some reason my camera just didn't want to focus. I thought it was focused, and when I went to edit, I was like, oh no. I start by using black, lightly drawing in black to outline the shape of the eyeliner. Then I added her waterline, colored in her eyes, and whitened her the whites of the eyes. I darkened her nostrils, outlined her lips. Lastly, I drew in the shape of her eyebrows with a teal pencil. I did do her reroute also off camera. When I had trouble building up the colors with pencils, I turned to gouache. Unfortunately, the temperatures have been pretty cold this winter, and it's been hard even finding a non-rainy day to work on her, so I'm having to take whatever days I can get where it's not raining. So using different shades of brown, I added some details to her eyes, added her pupils, darkened her eyeliner and her lashes. I decided this time instead of a 3D lash, I would go ahead and try again for painting in her top lashes. I really do feel like I need to work on that as an artist, so I am trying. I'm trying to get better at this. I just keep going back and forth, working on one eye, then the other. By the way, if you hear the sounds of a lot of trucks backing up or moving around in this video, I am so sorry. I'm doing the best I can to edit it all out, but we have construction going on down the street. I'm hoping they finish soon. Using a lighter brown, I just continue trying to add more details to the eyes. And I like her expression. It's like a slightly wary, but also kind of I was trying to go for an innocent kind of look. Or a gentle look, but either way, I think I really like how her eyes came out. It just gives her some expression. Sorry about how dark this shot is. For her eye whites, I decided instead of just adding a little dot, I decided I was going to give her a twinkle in both eyes. So I gave her a little 4-pointed star. There they are. Once that's all dry, and I've given it another 2 coats of Mr. Super Clear and allowed that to dry, I go in with Liquitex varnish in gloss for her eyes and lips. Time to tackle the hair. Okay, this is an ombre. So this is the kind of stuff that you would use to actually braid into your own hair to give it a pop of color and also to give it, you know, also it's an extension type of thing, but you're supposed to braid them in. So I took some of that and I rooted it as her hair. Because the bottom part is teal, I go ahead and go around her hairline where the purple didn't quite reach and give her baby hairs. Then I cut her hair and styled it. I did end up having to boil wash this hair. I tried using just my straightener and a knife, but it was just so poofy. I finally ended up just going in and using the old boiled water wash method. I did try to put her head on off camera, and unfortunately her neck broke. So I couldn't get the old neck peg to work. So let's make her a new one. Following Delightful's video, neck video, repair video, I went ahead and made her a new neck peg with just a little ball on the end for the peg part. So I used jewelry wire and Apoxy Sculpt for that. Once it was all cured, I cut open the back seam just a little bit to add the tail. And I glued a jewelry ring with the tail attached to it in place. Used a little elastic to pull the tail together around the ring so it's not going to come off. And then I sewed the opening I created shut around the tail. And I was very careful to hide the ends within the body, and luckily the stitches don't show at all. I just kept moving the hair out of the tail out of the way as I needed to. Then I gave her tail a trim. I would have loved to have left it the length it was, but it was just so long it would have dragged on the ground. Here she is all together. Let's fix the spot on her neck. I took some more of those acrylic paints and just used a brush rather than breaking out the airbrush. I don't want to cover up all my hard work after all. While she dries, I went ahead and made her a top out of crochet thread. And then I made her a satchel, an open satchel, out of EVA foam, and I painted it brown with 2 different kinds of brown acrylic paint. I added straps with using ribbons and jewelry rings. Then, because the glue showed a little bit, I decided to add some flowers. And you know what? Her hair needs some flowers too, so let's add that in. I sewed those in place though, rather than glued them. I also glued a butterfly on top of one of the flowers later. That looks really cute. Next, I took jewelry wire and Apoxy Sculpt and I created her a harp. Once the epoxy was dry, I went ahead and made the holes while it was curing, by the way. Once it was dry, I went ahead and painted it, sealed that with liquid gloss varnish. Then I added more jewelry wire to make the strings. This is so cute. Let's put it in the satchel. And here she is, complete. With her top, her harp, her satchel. It was really rainy and cold outside, so doing an outdoor shoot was just not possible. I haven't come up with a name for her yet, but I'm thinking of putting her up for adoption in my Etsy store. Let me know if any of you are interested. Thank you all for watching her video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed creating her. And happy Valentine's Day. It's literally just a couple days away now. I hope you all have a wonderful and safe Valentine's, and that you'll come back and subscribe. Thank you also to all who have subscribed. We're at over 300 now. I really appreciate all of your support. Stay safe, stay tuned. Happy Valentine's Day.